Assalamualaikum. Good morning to all of you. I am Brother Joe Ars Alferez from the Order of the Discalced Carmelite. We'll be discussing this morning about our subject on ethics. So our objective this morning is to be able to know what is ethics, why is it important in your life as police officers, and the code of ethics, professional code of ethics police officers. So I hope you learned something. Then at the end of this recorded presentation, I'll be asking you as part of your requirements for your final grade. So you have to listen about our discussion. So as an introduction, ethics is a rational reflection of what is right, what is wrong, what is just, what is unjust, what is good, and what is bad in terms of human behavior. I think when you're still in college, you had already a subject about ethics, and you know very well this is just a refresher course in your training of this subject, ethics, that it talks about the goodness and badness of one's action. It talks about good and evil with the dictum that you have to do good and avoid evil. I think you remember that one in your philosophy teachers. Do good and avoid evil. Okay? That's very clear. And there are ethical principles. So the first one is truthfulness. I think from the word in itself, you know very well what is truthfulness. Okay? Truthfulness. And you can give also your own example. Then second is honesty. When you were still in high school and elementary, it's written on the board, honesty is the best policy. But it is sad to note that nowadays there are a lot of government employees, government agencies, including your organization, the PNP, whether we like it or not, there's a problem with the so-called honesty. Okay, if it is the best policy, now be an ideal police officer. Ibalik natin yung sinasabi nating honesty. Okay, kasi problema talaga yan. Second is, the third is loyalty. Loyalty to, of course, to your organization, to your friend, to your family, and to others. Then respect. Respect is very, very important. Respect one another, especially to your uh, classmates, to the community, and of course, also have to respect other creatures as well as our environment. That's very, very important. Then the next principle is fairness. I think you understand what is fairness. Then the last one is integrity. If you lose this integrity, there is something wrong with you. So dapat tandaan ninyo yan as police officer. So we move on. The origin or the etymological meaning of the word ethics comes from the Latin word ethikos and the Greek word also ethikos or ethos, which means this is a custom, this is a way of life. So therefore, ethics is a way of life. It talks about, once again, the goodness and badness of one's action. Okay? It is a custom, it's a way. So from the word ethikos or ethos. Okay? Then ethics are an arrangement of a decent principle and a branch of attitude which defines what is good for the individual and for the society. So good for what is good as an individual, then of course the goodness within you, it would radiate to the society. Now if you are good as trainee, and surely it would radiate to your classmate, then when you become a full-fledged police officers, of course that goodness would radiate to the community. Take note on that. Then, there are many well-known figures of the history of ethics, like the ancient Greek philosophers. You are familiar with Plato, and he has student, which is Aristotle. But Plato, his teacher was Socrates. I don't know if you're familiar. if you still remember, I think in college. So the modern influences also includes other philosophers like Immanuel Kant. Okay, I think you also encounter Kant, si Bentham, si John Stuart Mill, Ross, Stevenson, and the rest, especially si John Rawls. So they are the important figure when we talk about ethics. In addition of the definition of ethics, it refers to the evaluation of moral values. Take note that definition on moral values. I think you have also one subject about moral values. Its principles that we mentioned also, the principles of ethics, the standards of human conduct and its application in a daily life to determine acceptable human behavior. Notice in that like in the Supreme Court, yung the blindfold na babae, may timbangan dyan, the right or wrong, then dapat balance yan. Then remember, the center is ethics. So as a human person, you have to balance. Okay? But if you don't know how to balance, matagilid yan. So there is a problem with you as an individual. Another definition from the different authors, the standard definition of ethics ito have typically includes such phrases as the signs of the ideal human character or the signs of moral duty. So we know you know very well what is science, di ba? It is a systematized body of knowledge based on facts, observation, and experimentation. That's science. Then how come that ethics is also a science? Why? It is also a body of knowledge, but it talks about the ideal character, human character, as well as the moral duty. Our moral duty is to do good and avoid evil. That's according to Rosworth Kidder. Another author by Paul as well as Elder. For them, ethics is a set of concepts and principles that guide us in determining what behavior helps or harms sentient creatures. So remember, it guides us what behavior that helps or even harm to the other creatures. That's why I told you in the beginning that you have also to respect not only the people but also the other creatures as well as the whole environment, the Mother Earth. And why? Today, there's a problem now with our Mother Earth because of us. Remember, because of us. So therefore, there's something wrong with us when we talk about ethics. That's according to Paul as well as Elder. Now, the question, why is it important? Why is it ethics is important in our life? Because, number one, it helps us to distinguish what is right and what is wrong. So, it talks once again the goodness and badness of one's action. But once again, remember this, you have to do good and avoid evil. That's the first reason why is it important. Second, it enables us a correct decision. Kaya nga sinasabi nga, huwag magpadalos-dalos para hindi ka mapahamak. Kaya nga, one of the importance of ethics is enables you to have a correct decision. So, you can ask yourself, now I am a police officer, a police trainee. Did I make the right decision to be a police officer? And of course, you can answer that one. That's why you are here. Despite of the fact that it's difficult to be here as part of this organization. But you have the right decision. But if you made a mistake, if you made a wrong decision, magsisisi ka sa buhay mo. Take note on that. Third reason, protects the right of every individual. So this is it. If you have your integrity, you respect other individual, you apply the principles. So ethics is also a protection of the so-called right of everyone. Okay? it does not mean that you are free to do everything. You have your limitation. That's why if you violate that one, especially to the right of others, so that's very unethical. There are evolutions, mga pagbabago sa tinatawag nating etika in Filipino or ethics. First evolution is ethics construct a conceptual bridge between biology and human behavior. You know what is biology? It talks about life. And of course, the human behavior, it talks about psychology. Then in theory, the cybernetic process is in at the heart of the developing ethical system, especially nowadays with the cybernetic. So you're familiar with our mass media. And you know, there's also a code of ethics in the mass media. But anong nangyayari ngayon? Especially now, the issue on the COVID-19, itong pandemic na ito. Is it political? Is it ethical? Of course, is it biological? Kita natin yon. Kaya nga yun yung subaybayan natin. Because we know very well that there is something wrong with this pandemic. Kayo, may mga biktima sa iyo, mga at least COVID-free na kayo ngayon. But surely some of you are victims. I think only few na hindi na biktima with this COVID. But lucky na walang nasawi. Okay? Another one. Ethics merge with science and cybernetic ethics. This presents a persuasive theory of describing how ethics can be linked to science and mathematics. Okay? We can link to the other subject, to other field of discipline, especially to science as well as mathematics. So that's part of the evolution of ethics. Second, na third, evolutionary ethics belongs to a branch of evolutionary science and not philosophy. Evolutionary ethics has no logical connection to the formal ethical of philosophy. I think you remember one of the proponent, si Darwin, yung Darwinism, that we came from the ape. The question, is it ethical? Kasi yung iba, uy, mukhang unggoy. So this is part of the evolution. But remember, this is science. Okay? Sige. So we have models of ethics. You look at this diagram. The other side, the awareness, there is positive and the negative. And there are two things there. The facade as well as the opportunist. What about this facade? Another box there na nagsasabi, walk their talk. The facade under that, walk their talk. So, which means that you have to model the way. In modeling the way, you have to do good so that other people will follow you as a good individual. Then, the negative one, sa baba, is the opportunist. Mga taong oportunista, alam natin yon. Salt of the earth is another box, the opposite. So, you look at the two sides, the positive as well as the negative. The facade, dito sa kabila is the, alam mo facade? Alam natin yan? Pakitang tao lang yan. Facade, makikita natin. But the other side naman, the positive, model the way, walk their talk. Ito naman, the opportunist, the positive side, the salt of the earth. So, we move on. So, therefore, panawagan, we have to be aware on this, the positive as well as the negative. The facade is an exterior side of a building. Sabi ko na, exterior side, makikita mo yun, daanan. Then, the word comes from the French language. So, facade. Kita mo lang, makikita mo. Parang superficial. Then, on the positive side naman, yung number 2 sabi natin sa other box is the walk their talk. Walk their talk considers the customer's ethical intention, and the ethical-minded consumers rarely purchase the ethical products. When we talk about business ethics, in walking the talk, another term is walk the talk, that's why this is positive, talks about the customer, is they have to model the way. Okay? Kaya nga, it's positive. Then, opportunist. Opportunist people, opportunists are people who see the chance to gain some advantage from the situation, often at the expense of the ethics or morals. Ayan naman, may nasasagasaan kasi oportunista. Tingnan lang, paano ako makakaginansya, paano ko ito malamangan. Okay? Take note of that. That's very negative. Then while the number 4, the positive side, yung the other box kanina, is the salt of the earth. And you know what is salt? 'Di ba? Salt gives savor. May sapor, 'di ba? Inalagyan kahit na wala kang ulam, pwede ka magdildil ng asin para may sapor. Kaya nga, salt of the earth is the most worthy people, a very good and worthy person. Ayan. That's why there is a call for all of us to be the salt of the earth so that you'll be worthy as an individual, worthy as a police officer. Okay? So once again, as a police officer, be be the salt of the earth that gives sapor, that gives savor, that gives lami ba sa kinakain natin. So sana ganon tayo. Be the salt of the earth. Not an opportunist. Not a facade. But you have to walk your talk. Walk your talk. Ibig sabihin, be a model. Okay, we move on. There are 4 types of ethics. So once again, this is just a refresher course. You have encountered this one. You had encountered this one when you were still in college. Meta-ethics, normative ethics, applied ethics, as well as the descriptive ethics. What about this meta-ethics? From the word in itself, meta. You know what is meta? A Greek word which means beyond. So, ibig sabihin, literally, you go beyond ethics. Going beyond ethics. So, meta-ethics is a branch of ethics that seeks to understand the nature of ethical properties, statement, attitude, and judgment. A ethical question is abstract and relates to a wide range of more specific practical questions. That's meta. This meta, especially with the particular question, is what does right even mean? So this is the question of meta ethics. What does right mean? Okay? So another thing, this is a theoretical meaning and reference of moral proposition on how their truths and values may be determined, seeks to understand the nature and the truth values, the ethical properties, the statement, the attitude, as well as the judgment. So once again, under this meta-ethics, the question is, what does right even mean? Okay? So that's the number 1 branch of types of ethics. Second is normative, from the word norm. Normative. Okay? I think you understand that one. This is a practical means of determining a moral course of action. The standards of rightness and goodness and wrongness then investigates the set of questions that arises when considering how ought one to act. With the question is, how should people act? So, how should people act? This is a norm, a standard. Kaya nga, normative ethics is a study of ethical action. That's why, how the people should act. This is the question of this normative. So, ako, how I should act to be a model. You as a police officer, how you should act as a police officer na hindi pasaway. Okay? Then, another thing, a normative ethics is distinct from meta-ethics and descriptive ethics. So, mag-iba talaga kasi with the question, how do people should act? Then the next is the applied ethics. This is about how moral outcomes can be achieved in the specific situation. Then identified morality, correct course or action in various fields of human life. So it's also written there in our presentation, it is the most practical with the three divisions of philosophy of ethics. Applied ethics is also an actual application of an ethical theory of the purpose of choosing or the ethical actions in a given issues. So the question on this applied ethics is, how do we take moral knowledge and put it into practice? So the question, how do we take moral knowledge and put it into practice? Moral knowledge is, you know, that you have to do good and to avoid evil. Then how are you going to practice this one? So that's the question of applied. It can apply how you practice to the outside world, what you have learned. Okay, but the question is, there are people, a lot of people, they know what is right, but what they are doing is the opposite. And sometimes they opted to do the opposite, the negative. Kasi sabi man natin, kasi masarap daw ang bawal. Masarap ang bawal. And we know that very well. With that, kasi masarap ang bawal. So, tama kaya yun. So, yun yung tanungin. How you should practice that action, that moral knowledge that you learn. Okay? That's an applied ethics. Then, the last one is the descriptive ethics. This is the study of people's belief and morality. So, this is also about moral values people actually abide with, people's belief and morality, research into attitudes of the individual or group with the question, what do people think is right? Kaya nga, it's all about morality. What do people think is right? Kaya nga sabi ko, morality is more on also doing good. Okay, the belief to do good. Okay, so those are the four kinds or types of ethics. So once again, the normative, the meta-ethics, the applied, as well as the descriptive ethics. So once again, I told you this is just a refresher course because in your college you have surely your ethics, so you encounter those types. Now, we move on to the code of ethics. The Code of Ethics refers to a written set of guidelines issued by an organization to its worker and management to help them conduct their actions in accordance with its primary values and ethical standards. So that's very clear. The definition is very clear. It is a written set of guidelines. So mayroon kayo, the written set of guidelines. But please, sundin lahat yon. Kung ano yung in toto na nakasulat, the Code of Ethics of the Men on Uniform, particularly you, the member of the Philippine National Police. Sabi nga, it will help to the workers and the management to conduct their actions in accordance with the values and ethical standards. And surely you have the subject about values as well as the ethical standards. So, the Code of Ethics is your guide. Okay? There are conditions for making these codes effective. First, there should be a valid motivation for introductions of ethics. Familiar? Valid motivations. That's why you, as part of this organization, surely your motivation in your mind, kasi sabi man, nagpupulis kayo para makatulong sa pamilya. But that is only a secondary reason. Nagpupulis kayo in order to protect us, especially the civilians, to protect the country and the people. I think that's very clear. Your family that's a secondary. Kaya nga, that's should be your motivation. Of course, your family, that's your motivation. Maybe your boyfriend, your girlfriend, that's your motivation. Or your nanay, your tatay, that's motivation. But that motivation, it should be in accordance with the rightness, with the goodness of your action. Kaya nga, it's sad to note na sa training pa lang ninyo, may iba talaga na may mga wrong motivations. Alam na bawal mag-inom, mag-inom. Alam na bawal manigarilyo, manigarilyo. Kaya sabi ko nga sa inyo, mga trainees, surely yung iba mga addict sa inyo. Surely, I don't know, sana walang nagdroga. Pero surely natikman ninyo. Sigarilyo, inom, surely, if not the majority, but meron yan. But please, tanggalin yon. At wag nang ibalik kung kayo ay maging full-fledged officer as police officer. Pag ibalik niyan, mark my word, go to hell. Go to hell. Okay? Kaya sabi natin, you have to model the way. You have to be the salt of the earth. But if you have vices, kaya masakit sa akin, mga estudyante ko sa senior, sa junior, palagi ko sa pinabaringgan pag nagkaklase ako. Sige, haram-haram. Haram ang sigarilyo, haram ang inom, pero makita mo sa labas, mga matigulang na mga pulis, sige, sigarilyo. Sabi ko, are they the model? Okay, are they the salt of the earth? But sabi ko, wag silang tularan. Sana your motivation now, it should be a good motivation. Kung may bisyo ka noon, wag mo nang balikan paglabas mo. Malinaw. Sana malinaw yan ha. That's a brotherly advice for your own good. Okay? Second condition for making code effective, broad acceptance within the company. Ayun, your company, of course, your organization. At tanggap mo ito. Okay? Tanggap mo rin na may training ka. Tanggap mo rin if you'll be out already. Tanggap mo rin na minsan kulang ang time mo sa pamilya. Kasi doon ka nag-duty sa labas. So, tanggap mo yun. So, broaden your horizon. Accept, broad acceptance sa trabaho mo in this organization. Para wala tayong problema sa code. Okay? Next, a continuous feedback is also important. Feedbacking, especially in your organization, is very, very important. Ang feedback kasi, ito yung nakakatulong sa atin. Part of it is your evaluation. Like ngayon, hindi ka makinig sa klase. Mamaya magbigay ako ng exam. So, that's your feedback to me, na natututo ka. But, kung wala kang natutunan, patulog-tulog ka ngayon. Surely, pagod kayo, tulog-tulog kayo ngayon. Pataka ka lang sagot. Kaya, hindi to basahin. Tingnan natin, huwag kayo magpataka. But, well, very easy yung aking ipapagawa sa inyo. Pero yung sinasabi natin na continuous feedback, I give you the information, then as part of feedbacking, magbigay ka rin sa akin as your output. I think that's clear. Same is true with your organization. Binigyan ka, gagawa ka rin in return sa organization. Then, next is verification and control. New guidelines should be drawn up and the rules prove inadequate in any way. Ganda din ito. Para epektibo siya, verify and control the new guidelines. Kaya nga, there are obsolete ngayon na mga guidelines, so there is a need to revisit. Like the PNP siguro, the mission vision, there's a need to revisit. Baka may bago na obsolete na ngayon. And why? Kasi that will help us to be effective, especially the code of ethics. Baka noon makaluma, like now, we have the internet. Wala man yan noon. During our time, sa klase, typewriter yan. But now, internet, with all the social media. So, nagbabago na. Okay? Gawa kami ng research noon. Grabe. Typewritten. Sulat. Ngayon, nandyan na. Pwede ka nang mag-copy-paste. But, magda-copy-paste ka, is it ethical? That's a question now. Okay? Next is integration in a broad company philosophy. So, what about integration? Isalin mo ang luma at saka nakaraan. You have to integrate para mas malawak yung kaalaman, especially the philosophy of your organization. Yun bang imahin? Magpupulis ang ganda, dapat ang model. Wag na ako ng pulis kasi ang mga pulis, may mga term tayo, di ba? Pulis patula. Sabi nga si Bon, hayahay ka pa sa pulis kasi pulis hindi nagtatrabaho, natutulog sa presinto. Is that an integration? So, an integration ngayon, kayo mga new recruit, ang gagawin ninyo, wag ko yun silang tularan, hindi ko sila gayahin. Baguhin ko. Ito mang nakagisnan ko noon dito sa labas, at ito ngayon, so integrate that one para mas malawak, malaki yung kaalaman. Then of course, sanctions and control. Para effective, may sanction yan. Kaya nga in your code of ethics, magkamali kayo, yung police code of ethics, magkamali kayo, may sanction yan. Either termination, administrative, etc., etc. Anyway, later, you will know that one. Ano yung mga sanctions of your organization. So it's good to have a sanction so that this code would be effective. Next, there are also difficulties in implementing the code of ethics. I think we know that one. Kasi tao man tayo. Pag tao, because of this, ang daming bright. Kaya nga dito sa klase, kadaming bright. Okay? So, pag may code, a written document, a rules, ibigay yan, may lalabag talaga yan. But it's sad also to note that pag dito sa training center, kita ko sa inyo, mga recruit, minsan kalplastikan. Pag dan, saludo. Saludo sa mga professor kahit na hindi kami mga pulis. Hindi ko man nila lahat ha, pero pagdating sa labas, yung mga sinundan ninyo, ilang beses akong nagturo. Noon ba face to face? Ngayon, na-assign sila dito sa amin, sa Cotabato. Yung iba, nakarecognize sa professor nila. Yung iba, parang hindi ako kilala. At least yung iba kilala, saludo pa rin yan. Especially yung naging estudyante ko sa college. Pero yung iba, sino man yung taong yan? One time nga, na-assign sa aming school. Kinausap ko. Grabe, dati sa training center, sinasaluduhan mo ako. Pagdating dito sa labas, hindi mo ako kilala. Ay sir, sorry sir, ikaw pala yan sir. Hindi ko naman sinadya na magpasaludo ako, pero naka-face mask kasi. So, face shield pa, hindi masyado nakita. Pero ganun ba, na dapat, you have the code, the respect should always be there. Hindi naman kami mga tiso magparespeto talaga. Baka nakalimutan lang, pero yung iba, nagkunwari nakalimutan kasi taas noon na, pulis na ako, ayan. Sabi ko nga, ito, hindi ito. May problema ito. Nakalimutan ng ethics. So sana kayo ha, makarinig kayo dito. Hindi man tayo nakita face to face. Hindi po lecture face to face. Maganda sana may face to face. Pero because of the pandemic, so be it. Ganito lang style muna natin. Sabi nga, the main difficulty of the code of ethics is that they do not establish priority between the norms and beliefs, and there are main areas that can create obstacles to put codes into practice. Okay. First, this is the main area, the culture. You know very well here, we have the so-called Filipino culture, but our tribe would tell us we have the cultures and tradition. We have kasi when we talk about culture, we talk also about religion. Our traditions or practices. Diba? Then what happened? Ay, bawal yan sa amin, ganito, bawal sa amin, ganito, bawal sa amin. So that's why it's also difficult to implement the code of ethics. But I think with you as police officers, take it or leave it. You have to follow your code as police officer. Whatever is your culture. Kaya nga kanina sabi natin may sanction dapat. The fact that you join this organization, you have to accept. Okay, sabi, broad your acceptance to this company, to this organization, to this PNP organization, though we have different culture. May mga culture, sabi nga, the question in your topic before in sociology, can we change culture? That's debatable. No. But that culture, if it's not in accordance with the universal practice, so you have to rethink once again. You have to restudy and re-examine. Naaayon ba ito? So that's one. Then the design, of course. The design of what? Depende yan sa program kung ano ma-design. So, yan. Ang hirap nga implement ng Code of Ethics. Ganito man yan. Ang design dapat ganito. Dapat ganito yung gagawin para sa kabutihan ng lahat. Kaya nga minsan may mga votation yan. Majority wins. Kung hindi ka nananalo, take it or leave it, you have to follow. Okay? Then of course, the enforcement. Paano i-enforce itong the Code of Ethics? Kaya kayo. Kaya nga, ang hirap talaga i-implement. An example of this, hindi man sa inyo itong our laws, mga batas natin. Kayo mang taga-implement, hindi man kayo abogado, pero there are times may mga lapses din tinitingnan. Okay? So, yun yung part of the enforcement. Kaya nga, the implementation of this code, talagang hirap. Okay? So, we move on. In addition, ito na yon. The PNP, in your Code of Ethics, PNP Ethical Doctrines. Take note on this. Its purpose is to provide moral, ethical guidelines to all PNP members, including you as recruit, as trainee. Okay? It is in accordance with the PNP Fundamental Doctrine and the Code of Professional Conduct and Ethical Standards. Ito na yung sinabi ko. Ethical Standard and Professional Conduct and the Code. Ito na yung code niya, take note. That's why it's written in the Republic Act 6713, the Code of Conduct and Ethical Standards for Public Officials and Employees, including me as a government employees. But kayo, may specific din kayo. Kasi kaming mga professor, mga teachers, we have also Code of Educators. Sa inyo naman, mga police. And this code and this Republic Act was approved last February 20, 1989. So medyo matagal-tagal na. Then, this professional conduct, take note, refers to the set of behavioral standards governing the particular professions and professionals. So sabi ko na nga, kaming mga professor, kami mga teacher, naiiba ang aming code of ethics. Kayong police officers, naiiba. The journalists, they have also code of ethics. The medical doctors, they have also the code of the nurses, and the rest of the professions. So may kanya-kanya yung code. But that's under Republic Act 6713. So that's clear. Now, the standards of police professionalism. Take note. PNP members shall perform their duties with dignity. Sabi natin, with dignity, intelligence, and competence in the application of a specialized skills and a technical knowledge with excellence and expertise. Take note ha, with excellence and expertise. You have to perform your duty with dignity and intelligence. Kaya nga, gamit ito, intelligence. Gamit yung lahat na talent ninyo. Ngayon, computer na tayo. Kaya nga, kayo mga young police officers, huwag magpahuli. Okay? So, take note on that ha. Once again, perform your duties with dignity, intelligence, and competence in the application of specialized skills. So, sana may mga skills kayo. Nakita ko sa inyo, pag IT ka, minsan ginagamit ka dito. Pag nurse ka, ginagamit ka rin dito. Pag educator ka, surely may mga teachers dito, ginagamit ka rin dito. Kung criminologist ka, dapat ito talaga magpupulis ka. Okay? So that's your skills. So develop that skills. You have to specialize that skills and the technical knowledge with excellence and expertise. So ibig sabihin, excellence and expertise, do not be mediocre. Which means yung ito lang alam ba, dapat expert ka. Okay? Sige. Then the police professional conduct, first, commitment to democracy. The uniformed police officers or PNP members shall commit themselves to the democratic way of life and values and maintain the principle of public accountability, commitment to democracy. You have to commit the democratic way. Hindi yung authoritarian. Kami masusunod kasi kami yung police officers. Tumahimik kayo. That should not be. Hindi dapat niyon mangyayari. Huwag maging pahambog sa iyong uniform. Huwag mong bahiran yung uniform yan. Kung nagkasala ka, you are accountable to the public, to the people. Okay? Kaya nga sabi nga, practice and commit in a democratic way and values and maintain the principle of public accountability. Remember your new chief PNP, bumisita yan dito, bago lang, this week, si Senas, yung the party, nag-party, pero love man siya ni Pangulo, people, maraming nagkyaw-kyaw during the birthday. Alam na alam niyo yan when you were still outside. I don't know kung nag-sorry siya, pero sabi niya, hindi ko naman kasalanan, pasalamat lang man yun, yung birthday ko, pero the social distancing, that's a question. May pandemic, nagpa-party. But a police officer should be a model. So pwede namang sabihin, oy, wag magmanyanita. So, may mga lapses dyan. Pero pag sila yung tatanungin, wala yun. But you know very well there's something wrong. Nagkataon lang siguro, palangga siya ni Pangulo, siya yung sinunod. May iba bang qualified? Ang daming qualified na mga generals. But well, yun yung destiny niya, wala tayong magawa dyan. So we have this to salute Senas. But yung mga pagkukulang, hindi din natin pwedeng kalimutan yun. Okay? Hindi natin pwedeng kalimutan yun. Kasi may problema. Okay? So yan ha. Next, commitment to public interest. Take note of this professional conduct. Commitment to the public interest. Public officials and employees shall always uphold the public interest over and above personal interests, especially you, over and above personal interests. Kaya nga sa mga public government agencies, no non-break for the interest of the people. Pero yung iba mga employees nagagalit. Kung naghintay kayo kasi kumakain pa kami. Pero malaki nakasulat, no non-break. Maintindihan naman natin kasi kumakain pero yung iba nagagalit. Huwag na lang sana bigay no non-break. Kaya nga, public commitment to public interest. Okay? Next, PNP should not be non-partisanship. PNP members shall provide services to everyone without discrimination regardless of party affiliation. So, nangyayari ito kapag may, I think binagbawal naman ngayon na ito yon si Mayor, dapat may mga pulis siya na mga kasama. Ito ngayon, yung iba nandyan pa man din, but as a police officer during the election, dapat non-partisan ka. Okay? Kahit na paryente mo yon, kuya mo yon, kapatid mo yon, papa mo yon, magrara ng huwag kang mangumpanya. Your mind, your heart would tell you that dapat as police officer, non-partisan ako. Wala akong kinikilingan. And that's clear. Okay. Next, secrecy discipline. Secrecy discipline. PNP members shall guard the confidentiality of the classified information against unauthorized disclosure. Ayan. Confidentiality. Siguro may subject man kayo sa inyong mga police teachers, yun bang kung mayroon kayong mission, yung mission na yun should be confidential. Walang pwedeng mag-bulgar dyan. Walang pwedeng mag-report dyan sa iba. Kasi that's confidential. The documents, if it is confidential, tandaan niyo yan. Huwag ibulgar. Okay? Next, discipline. This one. This is a big problem. Discipline. PNP members shall conduct themselves properly at all times in keeping with the rules and regulation of the organization. Once again, discipline. PNP members shall conduct themselves properly at all times in keeping with the rules and regulations of your organization. Alam yung code of conduct, alam mo yung kung anong dapat sundin. Susundin mo yun para madisiplina ka. But in a real life situation, pag nasa labas na ang police officers na nawala ang disiplina kasi naging hambog naman, na-promote na, parang sino na, wala ng disiplina. Baril, pag malasing. That's the reality ha. Tandaan niyo yan mga dear trainees. Pag sa labas, huwag gayahin yung mga nangyayari. Well, nangyayari talaga in a real life situation na wala ang disiplina na itinuro. So that's really a big problem. Next, loyalty. So tapos na natin yun, principle sa loyalty under the Police Professional Conduct Loyalty. PNP members shall be loyal to the Constitution, to the police service as manifested by their loyalty to their superiors, peers, and subordinates as well. Ngayon sinabi ko, as police officers, be loyal to the Constitution. Do not go against the Constitution. Kaya nga ang ating presidente, marukman. Para barong walang magwelga, walang magkudita, times 2 ang sweldo ninyo at saka sweldo ng mga sundalo, all the men on uniform. And why? That's part of your professional conduct. You have to be loyal to your superior, loyal to the chief. Our chief. Okay? The president. So, laro lang din yan, di ba? But, itong loyalty na ito, para sa inyo, especially the Constitution. Be loyal to the Constitution. Our Constitution is the law of the land. Be loyal on that. Do not go against. Okay? Then, of course, loyalty to your superior. Kayo, saludo talaga kayo. Mga elders sa inyo, your officers, of course, kasama ninyo. Be loyal. Then, the subordinates as well. Okay, that's clear. Next, social awareness. Another conduct, police conduct, professional conduct, social awareness. PNP members under immediate members shall be encouraged to actively get involved in religious, civic, social activities to enhance the image of the organization without affecting their official duties. So once again, you have to be involved in a religious, okay? Sabi nga sa culture, mahirap yun i-implement, but dito sa PNP professional conduct, religious may activities, join. Kung kailangan yung serbisyo ninyo doon, join. Sa civic, course. Sa social activities, sali kayo without affecting your official duties. Okay? Pero huwag kayo magsali sa sabong, mga sugal, mga inom, punta sa beer house. Be a model of police officer. Pag nasa labas kayo, tandaan ninyo yan. Okay? Social man yun, sir. Ganito man yun. Mali yun. Very unethical. Okay. Next, non-solicitation of patronage or patronage. PNP shall seek self-improvement through career development and shall not directly or indirectly solicit influence or recommendation from politicians, high-ranking government officials, prominent citizens, persons affiliated with civic or religious organizations with regards to their assignment or transfer. Ang problema tayo dito, na there are some talagang ginagamit. Kaya nga kayo siguro, bawal man daw recommendation, pero yung iba, si congressman, si governor, tauhan ko ito. The padrino system, parang hindi pa rin matanggal hanggang ngayon. Okay? Kung mayroon man kayong ganyan, matamaan kayo dito. Pag matamaan kayo dito yung non-solicitation of patronage, mabukol sana kayo. Kasi malinaw ito ulitin ko. PNP shall seek self-improvement and through career development and shall not directly or indirectly solicit influence or recommendation from politicians. So, halimbawa dito, career development. Mag-aral ako sa US. Maraming pinapadalang pulis sa US, sa Germany, marami akong estudyante din na pinadala doon. Of course, professional advancement, professional development, that's one good thing. Pero pag magbuot-buot ka, puntahan ko si Kuan, si Senas. Magpa-recommend ako kasi ninong ko siya, padrino ko siya. Yan, nagsolicit ka. Kasi may influensya. Si governor puntahan ko, si mayor puntahan ko. Ayun ang problema. That's very unethical against your PNP professional conduct. And I think not only the PNP, kami din sa government employees. Dapat, hindi din. If you want to improve yourself, do it without asking solicitation from those the higher ranks. Okay? Then, respect for human rights. The next, professional conduct, respect the human rights. May problema din ito ha. In the performance of duty, PNP shall respect and protect human dignity and uphold human rights of all persons. Bakit may problema ito? Alam niyo yan, sa war on drugs. Hindi tayo magbingi-bingian, magbulag-bulagan on the war on drugs. Sabi ko, I salute Duterte sa kanyang nagawang kabutihan. But I do not salute sa mga unethical na ginawa niya na hindi karapat-dapat bilang government officials, bilang the head of the state. Kabastusan. Normal lang sa kanya. But it's very unbecoming. Ikaw daw, magbastos ka. Okay. Binastos mong kapwa mo. Binastos mong, especially for us. I am a Catholic, nasasaktan ako that my God is a stupid God. Surely He will go to hell kung God man din ako. Pero ang sakit ba? Okay? I salute sa kabutihan, but I would not agree sa kasamaan. Kahit na i-justify pa yan sa kanya, intindihan natin ang presidente kasi ganun talaga magsalita. Garapalan talaga yan. Tambay magsalita. But that's very unbecoming to an officials. Very unethical. Malinaw yan. Malinaw yan sa atin. Hindi natin pwede yun i-deny. That's the reality in life. Now, may mga surrenderies. Okay? Ito, sangkot mga pulis ha. Surrender na. Puupo lang, wala nang ginagawa, huminto sa droga. Pang-pang. Lagyan ng 38 man palagi yung kasagsagan noon. 38. Palagay dyan. Lagyan din ng droga. Human rights, pasingit pa. Saan ang Human Rights Commission? Ganito, ganyan, ganyan. Kayo, alam niyo yun. Kaya nga, be critical. Be critical. Use your critical thinking. Kaya nga, all of us are professional. Do not bow down sa mga unethical things. Taas noo ka dapat as police officers. Huwag mo yung gayahin na inutusan. Tapos sinasabi, sila lang man yan. Nagpapatayan na kasi mabulgar na sila. What about the police officers na involved? Ang dami. Alam niyo yan. O kayo yun, kung addict kayo noon. Kung sangkot kayo sa droga noon. Buti na lang, nandito kayo nahuli. Tama? Okay, natamaan man kayo, sana mabukol kayo. Okay, but this human rights dapat, karapatang pantao dapat protektahan ninyo. You are our protector. Paglabas ninyo, surely may addict. Mawala naman yung ating presidente, may addict pa rin yan. Kung nag-surrender yan, nagbagong buhay yan, huwag mo patayin. Walang extrajudicial killing sa Pilipinas. Gawa-gawain lang yung human rights. Paano yung na-rape yung anak mo dahil sa addict? Bakit ang human rights hindi nagsalita? Okay? We are not lawyers, but we know na may mga karapatang pantao na naaapakan. Okay? Take note. Huwag gayahin ang hindi dapat gayahin. Next, professional conduct. Devotion to duty. Devotion to duty. PNP members shall perform their duty with dedication, thoroughness, efficiency, enthusiasm, determination, and manifest concern for public welfare. I think malinaw yan. Devotion to duty. Pag nasa labas kayo, huwag tulog-tulog kung kailangan ng mga tao, puntahan nyo. Kasi yun yung duty ninyo. You have to be devoted, you have to be committed to that duty. Okay? With enthusiasm, of course, with efficiency, determination. Okay? For the good of the people, for the good of the country. Is that clear? Next, ito. Physical fitness and health. Take note ha, yung mga tambok dito. Actually, papayat man kayo kay grabe yung inyong training dito. PNP members shall strive to be physically and mentally fit and in good health at all times. Physically and mentally fit and in good health at all times. I remember the saying, Latin saying na, mens sana in corpore sano. Mens sana in corpore sano. Healthy mind is healthy body. Kaya nga, mens sana in corpore sano. This is all about the physical fitness and health. Physically and mentally fit and in good health at all times. Ngayon, ang mga tigulang na pulis, malalaki mang tiyan. May mga estudyante nga ako dito ngayon sa inyo, senior. I think lumabas na rin sila. Ano nangyari sa kanila? Sir, delikado ako sir kasi mataba ako masyado, malaking tiyan ko. That's a problem. Okay? Kaya nga kayo, paglabas ninyo, you have to discipline. Dapat take note on this, physical fitness and good health. During the time of Lacson, Senator Lacson, di ba? Tsaging yung mga dagkog mga tiyan. Okay, para magiging physically fit. Kung may kailangan ang mga tao doon, may barilan doon, nakipagbarilan ka, ang bilis. Abtik ba? Pero pag tabatsoy ka, there is something wrong. Yung mga taba dito, surely pumayat na kayo ngayon. Now, next. Obedience to superiors. I think that's self-explanatory, but basahin pa rin natin. PNP members shall obey lawful authorities, lawful orders of and be courteous to the superior officers and other appropriate authorities within the chain of command. Okay, sa mga superior ninyo. Kaya nga ako, kung nandoon lang ito, harap-harapan lang ito, pagpasok ko sa classroom, saludo kayo sa akin. But I'm not a police officer, but that's one good thing. Na on that moment, in the classroom, I am your superior. But dito, chain of command man. So, ibig sabihin, sa inyo talang immediate superior, not me. Kaya nga ako pag masabi, respeto na lang sa akin, wag lang kayo magsaludo sa akin because I am not man in uniform. Okay lang man din yun. Pero since na-train man kayo, tabi, saludo ka agad, parang hindi din ako yung sinasuluduhan na hindi man ako superior ninyo. Nagkataon lang na professor ninyo ako. Okay? So, once again dito, appropriate authority within the chain of command. So, sa PNP organization. Sir, pwede ba't kami magsaludo sa mga sundalo? Of course, alam mo, official din ito. Kapareho kaming men in uniform, although ibang organization, kita ko yung mga sumasaludo man. Ang mga sundalo, ganun din. May general dito, may captain dito. Alam man yan, may mga may mga sign man kayo na ito, official ito. Ako nga, mga kilala ko, mga official, o kahit na hindi mga official, mga non-commissioned officers, pag kilala ko, sumasaludo ako. Okay? So, yan. Basta in the chain of command, ha? Malinaw yan. Next is the command responsibility. Take note of this command responsibility. In accordance with the doctrine of the command responsibility, immediate commanders or directors shall be responsible for the effective supervision, control, and direction of their personnel, and shall see to it that all government resources shall be managed, expended, or utilized in accordance with laws and regulations and safeguard against the losses through illegal or improper disposition. Ayan, malinaw yan, the command responsibility. Halimbawa dito, kung kayo yon, ang inyong pinaka-immediate superior is our training director. Kung may problema man sa training center, apektado siya because of the command responsibility. Okay? Kaya nga kayo, pag nandoon kayo sa istasyon, ikaw yung naiwan, ikaw yung sinabihan ng superior mo, bata, ikaw muna dito ha kasi aalis ako. So, kung ikaw yung pinaka-head, you have the command responsibility. Kung may nangyari sa doon, sa baba, sangkot ka rin. Kaya nga yung iba, kahit wala sila doon sa actual, kung nasa the same department, nire-relieve muna because of the command responsibility. Okay? Then, you have now the ethical standards. Take note on this as police officers. Kanina, professional conduct. Okay, ngayon naman, PNP ethical standards. The ethical standards refers to the established and general accepted moral values. Okay, may subject yung moral values. So, once again, the ethical standards shall refer to the established and generally accepted moral values. First is morality. PNP shall adhere to high standards of morality and decency and shall set good examples for others to follow. Okay? Morality and decency. I think alam ninyo yan. Kung halimbawa, nagkabit-kabit kayo, mga illegal very indecent yan, alam ninyo yan. I know in Islam, 4 wives is okay. But remember, mga Islamic believer, it is not obligatory, it is not mandatory to have 4 wives. Take note on that. Kasi yung iba inaabuso. Ang gandang turo, inaabuso. Pambugiro masyado. Kaya marami akong kakilala. Hindi nga mapakain. Kaya nga yung ibang mga pulis, sabi nga ni Duterte, gi-timestone niya. Pero ngayon, nagkabit-kabit ka. Mga Kristiyano, ganun din. Isa-isa lang. Okay, huwag ka mangabit. That's very unethical. Saan na yung sinabi? Morality and decency. Saan na yung example mo? Okay? So that's the question. So once again, I'm not against the 4 wives because that's a teaching. But do not abuse. It is not mandatory. It's not obligatory sa mga lalaki. Kaya nga yung iba, mga babae nag-isip na rin. Kaya nga yung iba, marami akong kakilalang official dito. Ay, isa-isa lang sir, hindi ko nga makaya. Dami akong anak. Palakihin ko lang yung anak ko. Ayan, that's one good thing. Okay? Then, next is ethical standards. Judicious use of authority. PNP members shall exercise proper and legitimate use of authority in the performance of duty. Proper and legitimate use of authority in the performance of duty. Ayan. If it is improper, so therefore, mali. Okay? Next, integrity. Ito sinabi na natin to kanina. Another ethical standard, integrity. PNP members shall not allow themselves to be victims of corruption and dishonesty practices in accordance with the provision, sabi natin kanina, Republic Act 6713 and other applicable laws. Ayan. Shall not be a victim of corruption and dishonesty. Sabi nga, iling na lang natin kasi may problema. May problema. Okay, pero wag tularan. Wag tularan. Okay. Next is justice. PNP members shall strive constantly to respect the rights of others so that they can fulfill their duties and exercise their rights as human being. Kaya nga, from the word justice, justicia. Okay? Justicia. You have to give to that person what is due to that person. To be fair, that's justicia. Of course, humility. PNP officers shall recognize the fact that the public servants are not the masters of the people. They are public servants, not the masters of the people. Towards this end, they should perform the duties without attracting attention or expecting the applause of others. Ayan. Kaya nga, humility comes from the Latin word humus. And this humus, which means soil. And that soil, di ba, our teachings, whether we're Muslims or Christians, we came from that lupa. Galing tayo sa lupa. Kaya nga, be humble. If you want to be great, be humble. Huwag hambog. Pag nasa labas kayo, naka-uniform kayo, nakaapak pa rin kayo sa lupa. Be humble. That's why this humility, kaya nga, humus, human. Galing doon ang tao sa lupa. Soil, humus, soil. Diba every time we pray, in Islam, malinaw yon. They kiss the ground because in front of Allah, they are nothing. Tayong mga Kristiyano dito, we have different actions, different way how to pray. But the very basic is you have to kneel down. In front of God, you are nothing. Sa amin din mga Katoliko, we can prostrate. Dapa din kami sa lupa. We pray. There are a lot of positions. Because in front of God, I am nothing. That's humility. Kaya nga sabi dyan, as PNP officers, you are not the master. Do not attract attention. Be humble. Okay. Next, orderliness. Orderliness. PNP members shall follow the original procedures in accomplishing tasks and assigned to them to minimize waste of the use of time, money, and effort. I think that's self-explanatory. Then perseverance. Once a decision is made, PNP members shall take legitimate means to achieve the goal even in the face of internal or external difficulties. And despite everything which might weaken their resolve in their course of time. Yung to persevere is go on, tuloy-tuloy lang kahit may mga difficulties ma-encounter. Okay, tuloy lang. That's perseverance. That's to persevere. Okay? Then we have here the Law Enforcement Code of Ethics. So para may ito sa inyo, pero basahin ko na lang. Ano itong Law Enforcement Code of Ethics? For your own consumption, ako na lang magbabasa. Then you can review this one. Pwede naman kayong i-print out ito para siguro ma-memorize ninyo. Pero basahin ko na lang. The Law Enforcement Code of Ethics. As a law enforcement officer, my fundamental duty is to serve the community, to safeguard lives and property, to protect the innocent against deception, the weak against oppression or intimidation, and the peaceful against the violence and disorder, and to respect the constitutional rights of all to liberty, equality, and justice. I will keep my private life unsullied as an example to all will behave in a manner that does not bring discredit to me and to my agency. I will maintain courageous calm in the face of danger, scorn or ridicule, develop self-restraint, and be constantly mindful of the welfare of others, honest in thought and in deed, both in my personal and official life. I will be exemplary in obeying the law and regulations of my department. Whatever I see or hear of the confidential nature or that confided to me in my official capacity, I will be kept ever secret unless revelation is necessary in the performance of my duty. I will never act officiously or permit personal feelings, prejudices, political beliefs, aspiration, anonymities, or friendships to influence my decisions with no compromise for crime with relentless prosecution of criminals. I will enforce the law courteously and appropriately without fear or favor, malice or ill will, never employing unnecessary force or violence, and never accepting gratuities. I recognize the badge of my office as a symbol of public faith, and I accept it as a public trust to be held as long as I am true to the ethics of a police service. I will engage in acts of corruption or bravery. I will never engage in acts of corruption or bravery, nor I will condole such act by other police officers. I will cooperate with all legally authorized agencies and their representatives in the pursuit of justice. I know that I alone am responsible for my own standard of professional performance and will take every reasonable opportunity to enhance and improve my level of knowledge and competence. I will constantly strive to achieve these objectives and ideals, dedicating myself before God and my people, my chosen profession, law enforcement. So thank you very much. That's your uh, code. So for your output na ibigay sa akin, answer these three questions. This is just a part of our lecture, related to our lecture, but this is very practical. So you can write it. There are three, that's 10 points each number. But please, you are professional. If it is 10 points, dapat worth the 10 points. Do not give 5 or more, 3 or more sentences. Dapat worth 10 points. Yan, alam ninyo yan. So the first, take note of the first. As a police officers, why do you need ethics in your life? So this practical. Ask yourself, as a police officers, why do you need ethics in your life? Second, in a real life situation, once again, in a real life situation, why do men and women opted to do evil instead of doing good? Once again, in a real life situation, why do men or women opted to do evil instead of doing good? You can give a lot of reasons. Third, discuss why men and women are moral animal. So yan, pang-ethics talaga yan. Third, discuss or comprehensively discuss why men slash or women a moral animal. So that's all, my dear police officers, my dear trainees. Hope to see you kung may time. Nakita na siguro nyo ako when I gave my talk there with your officers. Yung iba, hindi nyo ako napansin, but hopefully, maganda sana face to face. Pero because of the pandemic, at least ito na lang recorded video. So take note of that, ha. God bless you all. Once again, be a model. Be a good police officers. God bless you. Mabuhay kayong lahat. Dalaygon ang Diyos. This is Brother Joars Alferez, your friend and your professor. Maayong buntag kaninyong tanan.